Now, having said that Christianity is against any form of objectification or prostitution, I think that there are two particular problems. One is that in the church, leadership, which is meant to be service, is often treated as if it were power or domination. And very sadly, that there is a very close relationship between power and domination and sexual abuse and rape. And the sad fact is that there are a number of Christian leaders, I'm not talking about Africa, I'm talking about every continent, so it's true of Africa as it's true of everywhere else, where the pastor or the leader or the bishop exercises his power and his domination by subduing women sexually. And most people who teach about rape will say that rape is not about sex, it's about power. It's about putting your stamp of power on someone else. So I think that one of the things that the church has to do is to clean up its act. It's no use me preaching about sex and prostitution being wrong if I am sleeping with members of my congregation. That is entirely hypocritical. So let's not pretend. We know, not just statistically, but by stories that people tell, that there are many, many women that have been abused by pastors in the church, but they are afraid to tell, either because they'll be thrown out of the church, or because they won't be believed, or because their family will reject them, or because they may be blackmailed, or for some other reason. So that's the first thing that we need to bear in mind, that hypocrisy just will not do in the Christian church. The second thing is it's very easy to criticize prostitutes, and I can talk about male or female prostitutes, as though they were the ones who are causing the problem. Actually, prostitutes are a symptom of a corrupt, decadent, uncaring society. How is it that there are women and men in our societies who feel that they need to earn a living through selling their bodies? Is it their fault? Well, you can say that they could have chosen something else. Exactly. But for some people, let's say you have 4 or 5 children, you are married, your husband walked out on you, he went off with some other woman, and it happens very frequently in this particular context here on the continent. What is the woman to do? Is she supposed to go out and plant cassava? Can she grow enough cassava to feed 5 children and earn some money and send them to school, buy uniform and all the other things? The answer is no. Well, maybe she can sell on the roadside. Some people can. Some people quite plainly find that they can't. So we do have to say that the society has to accept a major part of the blame for creating conditions in which women and men feel that they have to prostitute themselves. And so these women have already been objectified. It's no use now victimizing them and saying, you are the fault, you are the problem. You simply drive these people crazy and make them contemplate suicide or some other form of drastic action. So I think that, just to sum this up, for the church, objectification of human beings is wrong, prostitution is wrong, the body is a gift from God that is supposed to be used when there is a living relationship that can be expressed sexually in appropriate ways. The church needs to live the way it preaches, and what prostitutes need from us, whether they are female prostitutes involved in heterosexual sex or male prostitutes involved mostly in homosexual sex, or occasionally as toy boys for older women. That also happens. We need not to feel sorry for them, but actually to recognize that they need to be loved, cared for, understood, listened to, and worked with so that they can find a voice and find ways of moving out of this cycle of violence and poverty into a new way.
So I feel the stigma is also another issue, because the stigma in the society is terrible, that these people, though can make some impact or can make some change in their lives, feel that they will be what?
Yeah.
10 down the board. So the stigma is also another issue.
The stigma is certainly an issue.
Even in the church. Because I suppose that maybe a prostitute want to come open in the church, that this is what I'm doing, can you help me? Maybe on the altar, like any other person would want to give a testimony. What would happen in the end when the church members are like pointing fingers at this lady? Oh, she's the one who came, she's the one who did this. So I feel stigma is also another issue. Yeah.
I think stigma is there in the church. I think sometimes stigma is worse in the church than it is outside.
How should politicians get more involved in this?
I think I have two answers to that. One is the issue of women's issues. That I know the Ghana government is very, very involved in making sure that women have equal rights with men.
Exactly.
But I think that it maybe needs to prioritise that even more than it has done in the past. I'm not saying that because it's not doing well.
It is, though.
But actually because it can always do more, while women's rights are not being respected in some parts of the society, either out of tradition, out of culture, or out of religious values. So, an expansion of women's rights programs. But the second one is this. Some years ago, you won't remember this, there were Ghanaians in another part of Africa who were being treated very badly and had to run away and come home. And the Ghanaian High Commission in those countries was able to give care and support. All you had to do was to run to the High Commission and they would make sure that you got a passage home. If the Ghanaian government looks after its citizens in that way when they are being persecuted for cultural or racial or tribal reasons, then I would want to say a prostitute who is a citizen of Ghana just as much as those people were needs to be protected just as much as those people were and looked after until she is safe back home, whatever it costs, whatever it takes.